Welcome everyone again. My name is Laura Matukaita, Media and Communication Manager at Gera Community. Welcome to our today's physical panel and CC-Webinar.live session. We would like to thank you, iBasis, for sponsoring the session and Patrick George for sharing his presentation with us today. We also would like to thank Eric for moderating this panel and our panelists for taking part and sharing the valuable knowledge. So Patrick, over to you.
Thank you very much. First, I would like to thank and congratulate Wida and her team, I guess, to have this event holding. I guess it's the first event since COVID that it happened somewhere in the world. So we know it was very tough, but Wida, I guess you can be very proud on that. I'm very proud to be present here with you. So thank you. I will spend the next 10-15 minutes, and Eric knows that I'm already speaking too much, so Eric is already ready to stop me. So to give you some perspective about the vision that we have from iBasis Tofane on this messaging world. Okay, so maybe some first word about the A2P SMS pricing that we see in this, and about some impact and consequences about that. There are people which are much more expert than myself in this business. Myself, I'm in this wholesale business for the last 25 years. But what we really see in this, compared to different type of business that we used to be, it's this really kind of big differences in terms of the pricing for this A2P SMS. And you see that in US, this is almost free. In so-called developed countries, there are big differences from country to country, but we can say that somehow there is a kind of average around 3 cents. And when we go to emerging country, then it's really, we can see some huge differences. Some of them are either free or really, too easy to access via gray routes, so meaning there is no way to monetize it for the operator, or some of them are very, very, very expensive. Then we have the question about why are those differences happening? What can justify those differences in terms of cost? Is it the maturity of the market? Is it the cost to reach that? Is it the cost to protect the network? Is it the volume of the business? There is no correlation on any of those proposals. We didn't find any kind of correlation. It's just from our own market point of view, depending on the political situation, on the, I can say, the currency situation of the country, the willingness of the regulatory body of this country and or from the operator. And then we see those jungle of different pricing, especially in those emerging countries. There is a big consequence of that. It creates a huge pricing fragmentation and also a kind of big instability for the guy who are really the one interested to send those SMS to the user. So it's difficult when you want to do a kind of worldwide business case about SMS to have a good accuracy about what will be the cost, because the cost will vary enormously between one market to other market. And in some of the market also, there is this continuous fight between the fraudster, the people using the gray route and the operator. And some of them, if they cannot have monetization solution, are somehow sometime in a place to reduce the pricing and more and more and more. So the whole ecosystem, especially for the mobile operator and this carrier world in the middle, we have a kind of race to the bottom. And I guess that's very important to keep that in mind if we want to create value for our industry. So let's now the magic world for this SMS, I think from our side, it's monetization. A lot of operators, a lot of people are speaking about monetization of this A2P SMS. We see that clearly there is a trend for some of the country to come with some kind of auction on the monetization side. But sometimes also, being on the operator side, we can see that it sometimes can be viewed as a short-term mindset and short-term approach because it can be really counterproductive. Because at the end of the day, if you monetize and you ask people, operator to partner to give you commitment, if the commitment is too high, then there should be a way for him to recover his money. And then we come to some kind of crazy action, which can be, again, counterproductive for the volume collected by the operator at the end of the day. Important to keep in mind is, again, who will pay that, who will pay this bill? Are the content owner ready to pay for this value and for this more aggressive price? What's the real cost for the carrier itself? What side effect? So again, if people want to push the price of SMS A2P high, too high, and sometimes too fast, then it's a fantastic, can say, driver for the fraudster to find an additional route, and gray route. So that's something to be kept in mind. What we can see also, and we see two types of approach of the MNO to tackle the monetization. Some of them really want to separate the different type of job and award to a firewall provider the firewall contract, and then to another type of player, an integrator, an aggregator, some kind of a gateway role. Some of them give the full, can say, key of the business to one partner, which is both handling the firewall and the gateway. I don't have big religion about that. I guess operators know their infrastructure, they know their cost, they know which type of knowledge and skill set they have on board. And from there, they can really, you can say, decide what path to do. Very important, I guess, and I hope that I will not be contradicted in this audience, is just buying the box, buying the firewall, not being followed up, not being active on it, is probably a loss of money, because very, very rapidly, this investment will not worth anything anymore. But if you work on that, work with either your firewall provider or with your carrier partner, really to make sure that it's a day-to-day fight, a day-to-day action, a day-to-day duty to make sure that this firewall is really used at its best way. Now, the problem of those monetization and those commitments that some operators are really pushing aggressively in this auction, it's what's happening when the commitment was too high and the money cannot be recovered, either because we cannot get the volume or because there is too many bypass, which is not, I can say, also, I can say, work on extensively. Typically, when you want to fight against the reroute, you need a combined effort between the firewall vendor, the carrier partner, and the operation, because there is always this arbitrage in most of the operators in the world between the national business and the national retail business and the international wholesale business. Very important. So sometimes you feel that it's more and more moving to a structure like a license business, but in a non-regulated world. So in the middle of a jungle. So you want to put some rules, but by the way, the market itself has no rule. So that's a kind of contradictory. Carrier, when they make their commitment, if it's a very interesting market and there is a big fight between the different players, you may come too high in the commitment. And then from there, you have big issue. And I guess a lot of us have in mind what's happened in some of the country where the commitment was too high. Then finally, the guy who was awarded this contract was raising the price to try to recover. And as a direct impact, the volume dropped and opened the door again to motivate fraudster, because we shorten their payback period. The higher the value is, the shorter of the payback period of the fraudster is. So again, keep that in mind. And also, then sometime most of this value then can be captured by the intermediate if then the commitment is not high enough, or there is a kind of strange mechanism system. So again, for the MNO, something you need to keep in mind. But again, when we speak about monetization, MNO sees the money side, but what's very important for them, and in some market, I guess there was some bad stories happening, liability is still the exclusive risk on the MNO. So they need to carry that. And okay, that doesn't exist until you have a big problem. And that is a huge problem. So again, please keep that in mind. Monetization is important, but keep that in mind, that this liability, and make sure that the quality is there, that you protect your subscriber, is important. So who are the real winner on that? More and more, some MNO, by doing this choice of outsourcing everything, disintermediated from the biggest A2P subscriber, and then you have this whole range of aggregator of big guys who are the one closer to the source. So the big question at the end of the day, who will make the more margin? Is it the aggregator or is it the MNO themselves when they own that? So I guess it's very vague, probably depending on the country, depending on the case. So it's something again to keep in mind. So about the pricing itself, again, we already spoke about that, but the SMS erosion or growth of the termination rate is something we should question, or that it can impact the SMS erosion. It's not clear what I said. I rewind. Sorry. So we should keep in mind that the MNO should really question themselves about their pricing policy, and to make sure that they do with this pricing policy what will drive their best interest, and not, for example, in a case where the price is going too fast, too high, really pushing and can say strengthening the OTT use cases. So very, very important again. Again, this monetization, I come back about the in the real winner. When people have put in place firewall and monetization scheme, again, if it's not the price, the market price is not well adjusted compared to the market demand, then you may turn it to somewhat to flattish this business because again you feel some OTT. Sometimes also from the operator point of view, they will see from their partner, some of them, not the majority, a kind of flattish business, and then their partner somehow may use the backdoor to also make their margin a little bit better. So showing then again stable growth of 5%, but by the way, the rest of the growth is going to less nice route. And again, come back about the liability. Behind this phone number, there is a liability from the mobile operator. And maybe today, the monetization side is a little bit, you can say, prevail too much that compared what it should do. Again, understanding the big story. So what's next? Again, we had the first panel this morning, and one of the messages was about optimism. And Eric reinforced that. I'm part of those. I guess we still have some good years in front of us for the messaging business. Why? First, because already, I mean, there are a lot of people on this planet who still don't have smartphone or still don't have access to data. So SMS is the only single way to connect everybody in this planet on that. So that's still a very big growth potential. The OTT growth, including the RCS, is really surfing on the low cost on data and the high cost of SMS. And sometimes also that the interface are not that good. But reliability, ubiquity is still something on the SMS side. So something to keep in mind. And some of the OTT, some of this RCS business model are still not yet very clear for editors. And when we speak about editors, you have the big guys, but you have also the small shop at the corner who want to give you some marketing information. He want to have something simple, just click on the button. He don't want to make his life complex. So either we have a turnkey solution who solve all this problem, or either SMS is the only way that is ready to deal with. You know, that's my conclusion. I will try to be short this time. So yes, for me, the future of SMS is still bright. Little bit the same way that we saw in voice. You know, some of us are old-timer from voice, and voice was supposed to die 15 years ago. Yes, there was a lot of growth on the OTT side, but still the business was juicy. And I guess on SMS is the same time. On the messaging side, SMS is still a big future, even with OTT, which are growing next to that. So, and nowhere is here to kill each other because you have different type of business model. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if there is some WhatsApp people in the room, but The goal of WhatsApp is not to solve the worldwide telecom problem. The goal is to make a community of users and from them to upsell other services. So if you open to the rest of the world, then it's not anymore a community. So that's why I guess we still have business for both of us. It sounds like monetization is key. But again, SMS, we still have some weapon if we do the monetization on the right way to grow and to even sometimes regain on market share. And typically, an example is when Europe moved to home like home, then it's not more expensive to send an SMS inside Europe than to use one of the OTT. So then the price argument shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't. Then many of those players have to choose between being an infrastructure-based or a CPaaS type of solution for people who really generate this traffic. So the OTT, they need all of those services today, both the traditional service and also the new type of communication. And today they still, I guess, struggle to try to make it, I can say, strong business channel. We hear a lot of different OTT playing with business type of application. And we have also most of our peers in the industry working on this multi-channel approach. When we look at the real figures coming from those multi-channel approach is still, with few exceptions, still very small compared to the big SMS business. So important to keep an eye on that. This is important, but still again, for today, the main business is still on the messaging side. So that's really will come with a new kind of business model for SMS, really surfing between the valuation, monetization, create value, but also to still be a good alternative to OTT for some particular use case. Security, I guess that will be a big topic in the next months, in the next year, for making sure that operator data, HLR-based information, are not abused by some of the people who want just to use the SS7 to know information of the customer, but without actually sending anything to the operator. So that's a way, I guess, for us carrier to create some products, and for operator, maybe to monetize an additional asset, those presence information. Fighting again the spam, the smishing, and the fraud is key, and we see that in this COVID period that some people abuse of the SMS messaging to get some personal information. The concept of fair value, I guess that's very important. Again, don't have a short-term view about getting money now, making sure that you create a long-term revenue stream. And finally, our role at people like iBasis is really to help MNO to defend their assets and liability and not try to make short-term on their back. It's really the vision that we have. That's why we have reintroduced SMS on iBasis 18 months ago after the acquisition by Tofan, because we clearly see us as a partner for the mobile operator for all type of services, and messaging being one of it. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. For the people who do not know, but one of the co-founders of Tofan is standing here actually, and Executive Vice President for the strategy for the products and on the M&A side. And I'll come back on the M&A side later on. Okay. But thank you for sharing the iBasis view on in this webinar and in this live session here in Berlin. I have a question. Where do you see that the regulator plays a role in not only the security, but also, let's say, in the total view of the messaging? What role do they play, do you think, or should they play?
I guess for me, that's a good question, a tough question, but I guess it's important that they understand the dynamic of the whole ecosystem, not only the retail side. Very often, what's important for a regulator is how to protect the retail competition and the retail rule of the game. But in this A2P SMS, we have really this permanent fight between your retail customer and your wholesale business. And sometimes what is good for the retail customer is bad for the wholesale business. One example is, of course, the SIM-box. You sell a subscription that is used on the SIM-box, somehow it's abuse of usage, and then, yes, you sell more car, but at the end of the day, you lose money because on the wholesale front. So I guess that's important for the regulator to understand that, to allow the right defense mechanism for the MNO to make sure that they can defend the total picture and not only focusing on the retail side.
Okay, because you think they do this not enough, the regulator? They still focus too much on, let's say, on the end customer, the consumer?
That depends, I guess, from market to market.
Sure.
But they are splendid. Some of them, sometimes they want to prohibit operators sometimes to have this kind of mechanism to defend the wholesale international arm on that side.
Because to me, and that is, let's say, my personal touch on this one, is that the mobile industry, let's say in Europe, let's talk about Europe, has been quite a lot, actually even sometimes being attacked by the regulator to protect, or in their, I think, in their push actually to protect too much the consumer. And so I do agree with you that they also should, let's say, look at both sides of the cake, because I think that's absolutely important. And maybe it's time for us as well, even on, let's say, in Brussels, to make sure that we, not via lobby, but to make sure that we educate a little bit more. We discussed education, let's say, to the marketing people on the retail side this morning a little bit. We touched base a little bit on this one this morning. But I also think that we, let's say, on the mobile side, we also have some education still to do to the regulator. Because I fully agree with you.
Yes, and I agree with you, but we can say also there is always two sides of the coin. As you say, if you take home like home, this is very bad for the roaming department.
Yes.
This is very good for volume.
Yeah.
So people who are living on volumes, very pleased by home like home. People who live on the roaming revenue, there's more issue about that. So it's always, there is no perfect solution, so they do their work. It's a complex work also, but very important that people, the whole ecosystem, including the regulator, including in the companies, the retail and the wholesale, understand the big picture. Mm-hmm. You know? And then sometimes one of your retail customers can be opening a backdoor, a huge backdoor to your wholesale ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Are there any questions from the audience for Patrick? Let me check if we have on the chat. I mean, the world out there. And thank you for joining, guys. No, so not for now, I think. So again, Patrick, thank you very much.
Welcome.
And for sharing the thoughts of iBasis and the Tofan group. And which I want to actually bridge immediately to our panel discussion. And because we're going to talk about the latest developments in the messaging landscape. So for this, I'm very happy and honored that next to Patrick, I will give quickly the word to actually my virtual guests, which are Fabio and Suraj. So I'll give you a quick moment to introduce yourself. Fabio, maybe you want to start off?
Yes, with pleasure. Thank you. So hello everybody, it's a real pleasure to be here, and well, congratulations to GCCM to set up all this conference and to allow us to be participating even remotely. So thanks for that. So I'm Fabio Botin. I'm the messaging senior expert product for Telia company based in France. And I've been focused on the messaging business since I joined Telia. So Telia, I would say, was a very probably the latest comer to this business, but we managed to develop something strong, and we see very good developments in it, even in the market for the messaging. So happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Fabio, and I'm happy to hear that you are, even if it's late, but you became a believer, right?
Yes, yes, indeed.
Let us move to London. Suraj, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, and thank you to Ouida and the team for another fantastic conference. Really glad I could join, even though I can't be there in person. So yes, my name is Suresh. I run the messaging business here at Real Networks. Real Networks has been in messaging for many, many years. We run the Metcalf platform that interconnects US operators, carries about 2 billion messages a day, and more recently Context, analyzing message for some of the monetization and anti-fraud opportunities that Patrick was talking so eloquently about. So, very pleased to be here and very pleased to share our thoughts on technology.
Okay, thank you so much, and we're going to talk and go into the matter later on. Trust me, we will. Rafael, thank you for being here. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you for having me here. First of all, I'm so glad to be, let's say, in person finally on an event as prominent like that. So I'm representing InfoBip. I'm in charge of the operator partnerships in the Germanic-speaking region in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And I'm amongst so many topics also in charge of pricing discussions, and I'm really happy that you touched that topic because if you are speaking about innovations right now, let's say in a country like Germany, when the mobile network operators would, let's say, adapt their mindset a little bit to another pricing, it would be an innovation as well because it would trigger so many other topics. So we as InfoBip, we are right now a full-grown CPaaS operator, and of course SMS is our substantial part of the business, but as well as a fallback mechanism to so many new instruments, messaging instruments.
Okay. Thank you, Fabio, in a beautiful building near Ula in Croatia.
Everybody's invited.
I'm close by.
Yeah.
Fabrizio, thank you for being here again, and always an honor to have you. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and Horizon.
So thanks also to be part of this panel discussion. Thanks a lot for the invitation. I am Fabrizio. I'm the CEO of Horizon. We are building messaging platforms and enable companies to enter into this market. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much. And of course, last but not least, we heard him already. And Patrick, we know iBasis, the great story about the fund, and but I think this year you did something else, so something in Portugal.
Yes,
right?
yes.
What was it? What was it? You cannot sit still, right?
No.
You and Alexander, you cannot sit still.
No, that's the goal. That was the vision. That the goal of the fund was to create the vision of Alexander was to create a build-up, to create an independent, I can say, player to consolidate this industry, not only on the voice side, which everybody understands, but also on the non-voice part. So we are very active on that front. So we had the pleasure to acquire the international part of NOSH, international sale part of NOSH, and then together with that, we have Ricardo Martins, who is the head of sales, that was supposed to be with us today, but he was so happy that he jumped in his kitchen and he broke his foot. So,
That's a big...
Ricardo, good for you.
All the good health to you, Ricardo.
And so that's something very important. We continue this journey. So this is somewhat the fifth acquisition. If you consider the Altis part was 3 different operators, and where we are the long-term partner of the second operator in Portugal, next to Neo, which was there. So showing that we are really independent player, that we give we want and we are perceived to give the equal best quality of service to each of our customers. So that's good stuff. I'm very excited also to onboard the team of Ricardo together with us because we are in a people business. So I know that you are selling platform, but you're a fantastic person and we are very customer, by the way, of Horizon. But very important to get people because those are the people making the difference. And that's why, again, this conference is so important because we are in a people's business. So to meet each other is really the root of our business.
Beautiful words. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, guys, and Suraj and Fabio, you're sitting there and you probably had your coffee already. But a question, Suraj, a question for you. While the messaging environment is actually constantly changing, as we know, and we tipped on this one already now in this session and then also this morning. What technological innovation do we see, and what challenges does it accompany? What is your pick on this one?
Thanks, Eric. I see. I get to start with the easy question. Technological changes that we see happening. We see lots of conversations with regards to machine learning and AI. People are talking about chatbots. People are talking about automated responses across different channels. And what's happening is this massive growth in data. I think, but the problem is there's lots of data being created, and as IBM said, there's lots of bad data. They estimated bad data is costing the industry about $3 trillion a year. This is where customers aren't spoken to, aren't dealt with in the way that they would expect to be dealt with, because all of this information that we're creating, all of this data that we're creating across all of the channels that we've talked about a little bit here, aren't being used in a unified way to create that optimal customer relationship. So I think that's one of the things that we're certainly seeing, and then the challenges are how on earth do we manage all of this data, keep up to date with the data across all the different channels in a market where customers are becoming increasingly, have an increasingly higher expectation that the brand's going to deal with them in a faster, more effective way. And we hear statistics like, 30% of people walk away from a brand if they have a bad customer relationship. So those are the kind of things that we see and that we struggle with, I think.
Okay, Fabio, is he right?
Yeah, how can I say that Suresh is not right? Come on, I cannot say that.
Suresh?
No way.
No, but how do you see it, and how do you let's say build this in your strategy within Telia?
Yeah, well, for Telia, I agree with you, of course, about the whole utilization, of course, and trying to make the whole method and charging method, routing method, analysis method more automated, I would say, right? So the utilization of artificial intelligence is coming more and more and becoming more and more strong. We see people using that for route analysis, which is great. I believe that's a great thing that will indeed have a big and positive impact in the wholesale business. But this is for Telia, I think today the most important thing that is happening for us, which is not a technological innovation per se, but the application itself is actually pretty new for us, and it's helping us a lot, which is the SMS being used for IoT control. So I believe that's a big market for us. It's been great. The whole application that we are seeing, and the whole market demand actually that is coming, it's been very good. So we see that as a big point of innovation for the Telia market. So the IoT control based on messaging, that is actually pretty big for us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Fabrizio, where do you see the challenges?
Well, I'll jump in on what Fabio just said, but I also agree everything what Suraj said. But as you can see, this is such a wide topic if we say what are the latest technologies in this landscape. But I think one very big driver is this IoT, but maybe it's the wrong word of using IoT. Maybe we should call it SMS. No, I think we should call it SMS OT, SMS over things. And because look, the antennas, they're empty, the SMSC infrastructure is paid. Where, by the way, I liked very much your presentation where it just said how you justify this price, of an SMS if the infrastructure in SMS is completely paid. And if the P2P goes down, so you have empty antennas there, why to charge so much? And if you have empty antennas, why not to use it for machine to machine or SMS of things? So if I'm allowed to use this word, I just invented it, So I think that will be a very big driver where we will have a lot of SMS to carry, but without it you really see them because it's between machines,
Okay. Fabio?
Rafael?
Scooter.
No.
So, Fabio, sorry. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, so we had the pricing, we had IoT data. I will maybe pick up on the IoT because obviously you will need to confirm, you will need to get in touch for IoT processes and connect it to your presentations where we need new SMS A2P models. And I liked it very much that you mentioned actually a session-based model as well. So the innovation and development in our sector is driven by other innovation as well. So if you can imagine an A2P vehicle driving fast on a highway, then suddenly on the left side, you have a huge social media truck. On the other side, you have an IoT truck. And suddenly you are not alone on the highway and you are influenced by these new innovations. So
afraid even sometimes.
In the beginning, there is a challenge, of course, to cope with that and to adapt. But the challenge is for us to actually recognize what's coming and adjust, cluster as well, a lot of solutions, and work in the best way to actually perform a customer journey that uses these different mechanics that we have in place right now. Also, one of the innovations that are really important to us, to Infobip, because we are global, we are seeing and learning on markets like Southeast Asia about SIM cards and so on. So the security is, let's say, the last topic that I would like to add here. Machine learning mechanisms, how to learn with the fraud, because the fraudsters are innovating as well. So we need to follow the innovations. Learn on the fraud, try to adapt and protect it as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because and thank you for tipping on, let's say, the security again, which we discussed already, because it is a biggie. It's a big topic actually, and as Patrick already mentioned in his presentation as well, there will quite be some challenges coming from because as well the competition, or the so-called fraud competition, is not waiting for us. They probably most of the time they're a bit ahead of us because they see the possibilities technologically, software, whatever, and they just move forward. And they trying to kill us, or they trying to make a buck, which is not how it should be. Suraj, where do you see for real networks the challenges coming actually in the near future?
Thanks for the question. I mean, in terms of the challenges, some of the things that we've just talked about there are quite pertinent. The security side of things, the fraudsters. We do see a lot of innovative challenges from the fraudsters. We during this period of COVID, I think we saw a rise by 1 to 2% in COVID related traffic, and in that we saw about 5% COVID related fraud. Lots of that was smishing attacks from new top level domains that had only been created hours before. So staying on top of that is always going to be a challenge, and we're developing new technologies and working with partners in the ecosystem to stay in front of that right now, and we feel like we're getting more and more effective. We've seen some stunning results in the US so far. So that continues to be something, but I think for me, that's almost like hygiene now. We have to do that. We have to show confidence to our operator partners, to consumers, that we're in control of what's happening with regards to fraud. But then the challenge is, because people see fraud as, and combating fraud as table stakes, just getting to the table, showing SMS is clean. The challenge is, how do you create value? And that for me is where we're starting to turn our attention. And as we mentioned before, how do you create value in this world where the customer a better, smarter conversation? And in that regard, what we're trying to do is almost get in front of the conversation. So rather than seeing what the results of campaigns are after you've sent the message, let's try and predict what they could be before you send the message. What can we see in terms of the tonality of the message, the intent of the message, and then what can we predict the consumer's going to respond with? And if we can improve that response, it means that people in this value chain won't be spending so much money on messages that don't go through because they're suspected to be fraud, or they're not as effective as they could be because we've tuned it before we've sent it. So that's, I think, a challenge, but also I think represents an opportunity for us as an industry too, as I think we saw that the use of mobile during this COVID period went up by 20%. So people are much more, ironically, they're sitting at home and they're using their mobile more than their laptops. So, and that's kind of crazy as well, right? So in this, I think, it's an opportunity for us to try and get in front of that conversation and try and be more proactive.
Okay, thank you. Patrick?
Yes, I wanted to come baback on the previous question about innovation, because I mean, of course, there are four experts, and also I agree with all was said, but there's something additional that I would like to point is probably the impact on artificial intelligence, who may also create, you know, those chatbots, more efficient and create additional, you can say, P2A type of traffic, because that will be, I mean, a bit linked to your SMS over things. It's something that the machine can answer more genuinely to the people, and that also help to generate additional service for the customer, and then for us additional business.
Okay, are you within iBasis already, let's say, developing special, let's say, products, solutions, services on this one?
No, we are not developing that, but we are, you know, in iBasis, we understand very well who we are and we are not. So that's why we are looking for partners to help us to find additional solution. Again, that's why we use Horizon. We are very pleased on that. It's really looking at this ecosystem, people who have the knowledge, the experience, and from us, then we can bring our worldwide DNA, our worldwide reach, and then to give additional service to our MNO customers. So that's the vision. But we are not developing that on ourselves. No. On the IoT side, we develop our own patent and develop some eSIM standard and solution where we are very well advanced. But on this SMS messaging side, we rely more on partners.
Okay, well done. That's why we're all sitting here, and we, as you mentioned, we are all people and we all need each other, and we need to discuss it, and we need to help each other and partner in this one. Fabio, you're so silent in the back. You're so silent in the back. In Grenoble.
Yeah.
So, where do you see challenges furthermore coming?
Yeah, I of course I agree with Suraj again on the security problem. We also saw coordinated attacks during the month of July. Much bigger than normal, I would say. So with mission attacks, that was a surprise, literally a surprise. So of course security is an issue, but also thinking what is next, right? So when a mobile operator starts thinking, okay, so after SMS, or what else we will do? SMS is an amazing technology, but lasting for a long time. So is it time also to start thinking on what is next, what we will do is next? So this is also a challenge for us. And considering the options out there, right? So when we talk about the OTTs, but also the RCS, so one is not only a problem of choice, but also what else would the challenge that these choices will bring to us. So like charging models, what else we will do on pricing strategy. So these are the challenges I believe that will be imposed to the mobile operators, I would say in the following years, on top of security, of course. So I would say that for Tela, that will be the key thing to discuss and to bring conclusions as soon as possible. This is what we see in front of us now.
Okay, thank you. Of course, yes, the MNOs will bearing actually quite some risk of what we saw already in the presentation of Patrick. I think Fabrizio, which I found actually interesting, is you mentioned that within the SMS we can be even more efficient because a lot of the antennas are empty, not used enough. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that one? Because it's nice and good to talk and to brainstorm about new technologies. What can they be? What can they bring, or whatever. But it's also interesting sometimes to see, okay, what do we have right now, and how can we optimize whatever we're using? And this efficiency next to that as well, should be one of the key drivers to actually to tackle the challenges we're facing now. And maybe if it's only, let's say, a solution for a couple of years until all the other new things will actually pass by. So can you elaborate a little bit on that one?
Okay, well, I think there are a lot of very nice technologies around, right? But if the price is high, I mean, who will buy it? That's
one of the underlying questions you had in your presentation, Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, that's
what I understood.
Yeah, I really like that word. What justifies a high price? And imagine now if we try to bring new technologies in, and we make now the SMS channel so secure that mobile operators charge you 10 euros and just invent a number. I mean, who will buy it? Okay, it's secure, but you cannot afford it.
Mm-hmm.
So innovation can be driven by price, you know? And of course, if I have a cheaper price, I have more business models. Because some business models, they just don't work if the SMS costs 3 cents, 4 cents, but it works if the SMS costs half a cent or even less. I mean, look at the volumes they do in the US. I mean, that's why there the traffic is exploding compared, let's say, to Europe.
It's almost for free.
Yeah, but you know, and this
Still
is the driver. Now imagine how many smart people think about, oh, there is another channel, almost free, you know, and very cheap, like maybe email, you know, because with email, everybody sees, okay, I can send it out for free. But if a message is almost for free and it pops up directly on my mobile phone, I have a direct engaging channel. And so back to your question was nothing else that let's use what we have. And if the P2P on SMS goes so heavily down and you paid the infrastructure, I mean, sorry, SMS is nothing new. I cannot imagine that still the mobile operators are paying down, you know, their investment in the SMSC. I just don't believe that. So it's paid heavily. So why to pay so much more for the SMS? What you try to protect, why they don't dare to think and to be innovative in the pricing model, because I think this will be a boost. And then they will fill up again whatever has been paid in the antenna, you know, with additional traffic, because you give space for new business models. You know.
I will simply follow up with the one word, education. So our actual role is to educate mobile network operators as well, especially if you are dealing with 2, 3, 4 different departments you're taking the services from. Because, I mean, Fabio touched the obvious elephant in the room, RCS. We are being contacted by one department about RCS and how to push it, how to develop it, how to have the best monetizing plan on the market. But at the other side, there is the wholesale department actually pushing us in another direction, in the same house. So there is this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde problem that we have, that we need to please everybody. So right now in the CPaaS environment, for us, the highest challenge is actually to create models besides one solution. So mixed clustered models where the SMS could profit by being a fallback mechanism, for example, to some other solution. And this is the challenge actually to educate the telcos about that and to educate the merchants as well. And you have so many different industries, so many different approaches. The one industry might start to use the SMS suddenly because they are using some other solution from the telco, which they didn't even thought of before. So right now it's a very exciting time, especially after COVID kicked in. And you know, Infobip was asked by the German Ministry of Health to actually replace an exploded hotline by a WhatsApp bot-driven solution as well. And they recognized as well that SMS might find their way in this scenario as well. So suddenly we are selling SMS by selling WhatsApp solution as well. So this is to recognize the innovation and put SMS in the right place as well.
Okay. Patrick, sorry, I'm looking a little bit about that time and whatever. We have some last famous words for us.
Oh, famous word. About the changes?
Yeah, about the latest, let's say, developments we will see in messaging landscape. What do you foresee? How do you see the future? What can we expect?
Again, it's to separate buzzword from reality. Education at all levels. You know, education for us, for people, us carrier, for people at the operator side about what is really RCS, what is not, what will never be, what it can be. about about the cost of usage. And how many of people know that sending an SMS when they are abroad in Europe, to Europe, is part of the national package? How many people, but the percentage of people know that? Once you know that, the price barrier is out. Security, key, making sure that if you, again, for non-technological people, if you are got once by a phishing SMS, and then from there it creates problems for you, probably you are lost customer for the rest of your life. So all of that, it's very important. I guess it's making sure that we don't use buzzwords, we explain it, that people understand, that we
translate.
Yes, translate into.
Which is part of the education.
Yes, and that's typically for those marketing. I come back on what you said on the previous panel. It's it's a multi-layer industry where you have a regulator and or a mobile operator decide about the price termination. I can say pricing strategy in one place, and this is sold to some aggregator and some of them even to additional aggregator, and then for corporate, which themselves sell to small business. And that's the one at the end of the story, you take the sales decision of the which channel I will use and all of that. And I'm not sure that all the information, the relevant information are passed through the chain in a correct way. So that's something I guess you need to digest, pre-digest to help the next member of the value chain really to carry the information. But because as Fabrizio said, we have a lot of assets. And because it's there forever, it's normal. You know? I would say it's like health. Health only exists when you have a health problem. Otherwise, it's normal.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's.
Thank you for your vision. And guys out there, I would like to thank you because I don't see any question for it. There is a question. There is one question. Vladimir, thank you very much for your question. So guys, at the end of this show, what do you think about the future of A2P messaging? Taking into account alternative communication channels such as Viber business messaging, WhatsApp business messaging, push notifications, verifications over voice, etc., that are often much cheaper for the enterprises than SMS. So should MNOs be careful when increasing A2P pricing in order not to lose in this competition? Maybe something for Suraj or Fabio? Did you get the question?
Yeah.
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 Go ahead,
Fabio.
Go ahead, Suraj. Go ahead.
Don't fight.
Okay.
So,
interesting question. Obviously, it's always a consideration. I think our view, because we've seen this happen already, our view is let's understand what we're doing today with SMS really, really well. Let's use our analytics, let's use our insights, let's work out why people have been using it for these years, and then let's make sure fantastically good for that. Let's try out new customer journeys, as I think the panel were talking to, and encourage our customers to try using SMS in new ways. As you think about the new channels have two things, right? You think about them, they're supposed to be multimedia, and whenever there's multimedia, there's going to be a lot of development work that's needed to be done. As a marketing director, you'd be thinking to yourself, shall I use something that's worked for me in the past many times before, or shall I put effort, development work, extra cost in bringing on an agency to build a multimedia campaign along one of these other channels? And you're constantly thinking as a marketing director, what is my opportunity cost for spending money on these new channels and investing all of the development and the customer experience that go with those channels? And if that needs a return on investment, I think as an industry, we just think about what we do today and talk about SMS and the productivity of the SMS and use the analytics around SMS to demonstrate that we have a fantastic channel already. And you don't need to develop new apps and new stuff. Now, when it comes to new experiences, yeah, great. Use the multimedia for the new experiences, but that still doesn't take away from the value that SMS has built up over the years.
Okay, thank you, Suraj. Any questions from the audience? Giovanni, normally you have a question. Normally, so, help me out here. Come on.
How do you see the big fish eating the smaller fish going on in SMS? Is the SMS becoming so mature that eventually there will be only 3, 4, 5 companies out there, and all the small companies are gone? Or the other way around, that you see more and more players coming to the market because it's so easy to get into messaging. What's your view on that?
You mean that, for example, there's a big fish next to me, I need to give him my business card for him to buy me. That's what you mean. No, I guess it's you will have, for me, always big fish will become bigger, and you will need smaller fish because, I mean, if you take those companies like who are very small, very agile, when they grow, it's evident that somehow, somewhere, when you become so big, you may lose some of the flexibility you had when you were a small company. So I guess you will have in this ecosystem still the need for small guys who will be innovative, try and fail, and to take some more risk, and some bigger guys who are there will be mainstream and consolidate this type of business. So that's my vision.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Giovanni, for the question. We have to close this session. I would like.
It's the only event, presential event of the last century.
Almost, but don't be afraid, guys. We have to close this session, but be aware that as from 2:30, Andreas Konstantinidis, co-ambassador of mine with the care community, will talk about the retail side of the SMS. Tomorrow, we will make sure that we will also cover, let's say, a little bit on RCS and so on. So stay tuned, stay with us. Thank you for being here. I would like to thank my panelists out there, Fabio and Suraj. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. Fantastic.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rafael, top, thank you, and Patrick, as always, honor. Thank you so much. Thank you for sponsoring. Thank you, my audience. Thank you so much. And for these words, I give it back to Laura.
So we are at the end of the session. Thank you, first of all, Eric, for moderating and doing a fabulous job, for all panelists, for sharing their knowledge, for Patrick, for his amazing presentation. And that's it for now. I will see you in our future panels, one today and much more tomorrow and Wednesday.
Stay tuned, guys. Thank you.